What's going on, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. So Jada Pinkett Smith has revealed that her and Will Smith have been separated since 2016. So this was before the Oscar slap with Chris Rock. This was before, you know, I'm guessing the entanglement with August Alsina. I'm trying to think back that far. But the point is that they've been separated since 2016. And if you guys remember, Jada's show that she briefly had on Facebook called The Red Table Talk, where she would invite celebrities in and even spilling her own tea about her entanglement with August Alsina, right? He was Jaden's friend. He came to them when he was really sick. And so they ended up having a relationship. August said that, Will gave him permission. Will and Jada denied that. But the whole situation, had the internet buzzing. Well, she's now promoting her new book titled Worthy. It comes out soon. And she sat down with People magazine to talk about how Chris Rock actually asked her out. So she says that she hasn't spoken to Chris Rock since the Oscars incident, but she hopes that everyone can find peace. And she says that her book, Worthy, comes out October 17th. So that's next week. But she says that, she hasn't talked to him since. Her husband, Will Smith, went on stage and struck him after he made a joke about Jada. And so she's asked, do you have any desire to talk to Chris? And she's like, here's my desire. I just hope that the misunderstanding around this can be cleared up and that there can be peace. Talk about this in the book. I think that there might be some misunderstanding between Chris and I as far as the 2016 Oscars. Yeah, you don't say. I think he might have taken offense, which I meant no harm in offending. That wasn't my intention, but I do think there's a big misunderstanding there. So, yeah, that was huge, right? Back in 2016, when Will was overlooked for his concussion performance and the acting nominations recognized no actors of color, Jada was vocally in support of the hashtag Oscars So White movement. If you guys remember, April Rain, she started that on Twitter, calling for a boycott of the awards show. So Chris, who was hosting that year, made a joke about Jada in his monologue. And then in his Netflix special the next year, or earlier this year, I should say, Chris claimed that Jada told him that he should quit the hosting gig out of solidarity. Jada admits to not really recognizing the level of pressure that Chris might have been under during that time. I probably should have called him and gone, hey, are you okay? And just, although I'm speaking out about the Oscars, I do wish you the best. And I just want you to know that. Me taking the time to call him said that just to touch base, but his feelings might have been hurt, she says. She adds, all we can ever do is look at our part and see where could I have done something that would have seemed as if whatever misunderstanding might have been created or what I could have done to avoid that misunderstanding. That's one thing I think about is that call. Jada says that Chris, who's 58, called her afterwards in 2016, and she thought that they had moved on. He apologized, and I apologized to him as well, she says. So actually, I thought that we were good, that the hatchet was buried between us, and we hadn't talked since then until 2022 came. Directly after the slap, Jada says that Chris came downstage to speak with her during a pause in the live broadcast where he was presenting the award. Chris came down to my end of the stage and he tried to apologize to me. He said, I didn't mean you any harm. I can't talk about this now, Chris. I said, this is some old-ish. I thought this was about the 2016 Oscar and their stuff that they had before I even came to the picture in the late 80s. Not the late 80s. Um, just a side note, because I'm reading this People article, but Jada, Will, and Chris, y'all are in y'all's 50s, late 50s at that, if Chris is 58. I mean, come on. She says, I got to leave that stuff for Will and Chris to talk about, but they got their stuff for sure, obviously, and it played out on the world stage. But the fact that, Will lost his temper, you know, Chris was asking her out, they're talking about the 2016 Oscars, 100 years later, the 2022 Oscars. Come on, man. You just got to let some stuff live. Was Jada, who lives with alopecia, offended by the joke? At the center of the Oscars incident, Chris making a punchline about her shaved head. She says, quote, I mean, that's what comedians do. I would just have to say that I'm not really here to make any judgment on how people decide to express themselves and express their art. I'll say that several times. I've had my feelings hurt for sure, and I've had my feelings hurt a lot by Chris. But at the end of the day, too, being in the spotlight comes with the territory. Jada also reveals in her book that Chris once asked her out on a date. She says, I think every summer all the reports would come out that me and Will were getting a divorce. In this particular summer, Chris, he thought that we were getting a divorce. And so he called me and basically was like, I'd love to take you out. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, aren't you and Will getting a divorce? He was like, she's like, no, Chris, those are just rumors. He was appalled and he profusely apologized. And that was that. Chris did not respond for comment. Okay, so in an interview with Today, Good Morning Today, Jada revealed to Hoda that she and Will have been separated for 7 years. She confirmed it wasn't a divorce on paper, but by the time we got to 2016, we were just exhausted with trying. She says, I think we were both kind of still stuck in our fantasy of what we thought the other person should be. The Set It Off actress also said that she made a promise that there would never be a reason for us to get a divorce. We will work through whatever. Wow. Will, 55, has since apologized for the Oscars incident and resigned from the Academy, which banned him from attending its events for 10 years. Reflecting on that night, Jada says that she thought it was a skit at first as well. From where I was sitting, I couldn't tell. It didn't look like Will hit Chris because, number one, I'd seen Will in the boxing ring with pro fighters. Will's a heavy hitter, so when Chris moved, it looked like he ducked or he missed the shot. No, we heard the sound now, Jada. Now, wait a minute. I mean, I wasn't in the crowd, but a lot of people, of course, thought it was a skit just because of them, being professional comedians. But no, we heard that slap. That was the slap heard around the world. Okay, we didn't just see it. She said, there's no way that Will hit him. It wasn't until Will started to walk back to his chair that I even realized it wasn't a skit. I was in as much of a fog as anybody else in that room that night. Jada remembers trying to keep myself grounded and settled for the people around us, especially for Will. And the first thing she said to Will afterwards were, are you okay? I wasn't sure what was going on. I just knew one thing I realized in everything I'd been through is to stay calm, stay clear, just so you can keep your awareness of what's happening around you. Jada says, because of my own journey of self-worth, she's finding a way to support Will while letting him figure out his path on his own. For years, I've taken a lot of responsibility thinking that I'm responsible for the things that just aren't my responsibility. Say responsibility one more time, Jada. Part of my codependency, she says, I'm going to be by his side, but also allow him to figure out this for himself. I'm finding a way to support him without trying to take away or deal with it for him for what he has to be with. Okay, so that's the end of the article. That's a lot, right? I'm glad that she's sticking by his side. I'm glad that, they're trying to work through things. I think that a really good trusted therapist would be really helpful. So instead of, Jada trying to work out her issues with August, that was messy, right? An entanglement. Or in front of, the Facebook crowd on Red Table Talk, I really feel like a really good trusted therapist, a marriage and family therapist to be exact, would be so useful to help them unpack, a lot of their childhood trauma. I know Will talked about that in his book. And I'm glad that, she's using, her writing a book to get her feelings out and express herself, because she's an artist. She's as much of an actress as her husband is, although he's a bigger actress, right, than her. But that doesn't even matter at this point, because I'm not sure where his career is going to go after what happened on the Oscar stage. But I will say this, I'm glad that they have each other. I'm hopeful that they can reconcile. They said that they're not going to divorce on paper. So there has to be some kind of, love and connection still there. So whatever the issues, are surrounding, her past relationship with Tupac, her entanglement with August, his, the rumors swirling around him and his past co-stars or whatever. People change, people grow, you can move things, around. They have, beautiful children together. I feel like there's still some hope there. So it's messy, but life is messy. You guys, drop down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. I know a lot of people on social media are like, we're tired, we are exhausted, we want out of the Will and Jada group chat, and I get it. But I definitely want to bring you this update, especially since her book is coming out. Let me know if you guys are going to read it. Let me know in the comments section. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I will talk to you later. Take care, Aces. Bye.